All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Start, Build, Grow Show. Today, we are talking about how to dominate your local city on online and digital marketing strategies. And we're also going to be interviewing another amazing guest that's an expert in this field. So stay tuned, and we'll see you in just a minute.
JobNimbus is a fully customizable back office solution.
Track leads, jobs, tasks from one easy-to-use software.
And with the largest ecosystem of integrated partners, if we don't do it, we have a friend who does.
Learn how the #1 back office system in roofing
can help you be efficient, be organized, be professional, and be profitable.
I just think our salespeople are being a little bit of, lead babies.
Yeah, we don't say lead babies. It's okay for people to specialize in selling instead of canvassing and lead gen for themselves. We call them roofing sales professionals.
Surprisingly, sales are way up as we built heavier duty lead gen systems and let our salespeople be roofing sales professionals.
All right, everybody, welcome to this episode of the Start, Build, Grow Show. As mentioned, we do a lot of marketing stuff because marketing is so important in growing our construction businesses, our roofing businesses. And one of the best ways to do that is to figure out how to dominate your local city, your local market online. And we're going to dive into that as well. But first and foremost, in traditional fashion, we have another amazing guest. We got Brittany Murphy with OneThing Marketing joining us today. And welcome in, Brittany.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so excited. So, normally how this goes, let's start with a story. I mean, we can dive into the fun stuff here later, but everybody likes a good story. Like, how did you get where you are now? You were talking earlier about, your generational, you grew up in the trades, and I'm interested to hear kind of how you got into the trades and give me your backstory.
Yeah, well, I'll start back in November of 19. No, I'm kidding. I am luckily a daughter of a pipe fitter. So I grew up with sprinkler heads all over my household when I grew up. And so my mother was a normal corporate job. However, my dad was the trades. And growing up, when they would have take your daughter to school day, child to work day, my mom would always take me and I'd always say, well, why can't I go see dad's line of work? And they had never, ever wanted me to even think remotely about diving into it. So I found a different way to kind of get around that rule of kind of keeping away from the trades. But growing up with that, right now I specialize in marketing. And the reason I'm in marketing now and focusing on the trades is because growing up as a family with your father running basically as a tech, if that business is doing well or not. There was months that we were eating well, no worries, Christmas presents under the tree. Other months where my mom admitted to me as an adult, she had to call and beg for him to get some jobs because we needed to make sure we could make the mortgage payment. So it is so much a part of kind of how I grew up and understanding that I love family businesses and I want to make sure that they're thriving and surviving as much as possible. So, for the last 10 years now, I have been working on marketing and full force digital, and we do really focus on just the trades guys. So it's a beautiful combination of kind of growing up and hating seeing what we were going through, because back in the 90s and 2000s, it's not like they had the digital marketing we have now at our fingertips to kind of help dispose. So we were really just at the hands and the mercy of that company. So it's beautiful that I can help guys coming to me that are in the same spectrum. They want to make sure their family is doing well. Maybe they want to pass down the business to the kids in a couple decades. And if that business isn't doing well, then they can't do it. That's where I love to step in to make sure we can drive more business for them as much as possible.
Yeah, that definitely reminds me. So I'm a third generation contractor myself. I grew up, I remember as a little kid, my grandfather had a roofing company, not for a long period of time, but I just remember, because I just visited them during the summers and stuff. So I lived separately in a mixed home, but I'd go visit my grandfather and my dad. And this was the good old days of, my dad up there with a hand nailing every shingle and grandfather up there kind of loading shingles on his shoulder and bringing them up. And I remember the early days of when I'd visit my dad in the wintertime, you never knew, is it going to be a good winter or a good Christmas or a bad Christmas? And as an entrepreneur and as like a small business owner, as a family business, I can definitely relate to that. And then, fast forward in my own business, we definitely built a family, started with the family. And there's been many a times early on. And I think a lot of contractors or roofers listening to this can attest to this. I mean, there's kind of like a rite of passage that first year, that first maybe 18 months or so, as much as you want to have it all figured out and have all the systems in place, it's a struggle. You're going to have to go through challenges. And one of those in particular you touched on, which, I still remember to this day multiple times, because my mom was my first employee. She was, working and did all my office work and was all kind of running the back office, doing the bills and paying attention to that stuff while I was out trying to grow the business. And there was many weeks where a Wednesday or Thursday would come up and she would say, "Hey, we need some money. Go find money, get money, because we got to pay the bill, or you're not getting paid, or I'm not getting paid. Nobody's getting paid if you don't collect some checks." And, we would pray about it and we would get after it. And I would just make calls and did everything I could to bring that in. So I think, you touched on it, but I wanted to elaborate on that because I think there's a lesson here that our listeners all can relate to. There's a lot of times we'll bring companies on, or you see these companies that are doing 10, 15, 20 huge companies doing, huge volume, but they all went through it. There's probably a point in all of our lives that we can remember a time where we're like, "Hey, I don't know what I'm going to do to make the bills next week or this week or next month." And as challenging as that is, I think it kind of defines us. It helps us define ourselves as entrepreneurs and as human beings, because we got to go through things like that to have the right perspective. Because if you're just hitting home runs all the time, you get used to just hitting home runs. And when things fall, when you strike out or you miss the ball, it's like devastating emotionally and to the business. So I'm glad you brought that up. So I kind of digressed a little bit to join in on that. But
No, I really think the beauty is in the struggle. I mean, that's kind of where we define who we are in those moments and figure out who we are in those scary moments of, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? And just to kind of finish off the story. So I'm not the owner, but I'm kind of the partner that was after the owner built the business. I've helped do all the business development for us. And even his start, he was in a previous industry doing picture framing, wanted a website, wanted someone to come in and market his business, paid someone good money, and then basically got screwed over left and right and kind of had to learn how to do it himself. And that was kind of where the struggle time frame is. He was in a custom picture framing business in 2008. Nobody gave a shit about custom framing and paying hundreds of dollars for that in that time frame, which is why he seeked out marketing help initially to kind of help grow the business with it. So, I mean, whether you're in roofing or other industries, that struggle of trying to how to get from point A to point B when all of these issues happen. I mean, we're a thriving business now because we went through that. And honestly, the business was created through struggle.
yeah. And I think most businesses that are successful go through that. There's just some level of struggle because it teaches you things that you just can't learn from a book or from a podcast or just, from talking or mentors or coaches or whatever. There's certain things you just have to go through to learn, to really let it set in. So thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
So you got into it, and how did you get into the marketing space? And I know, I know a lot of marketers, and there's a lot of marketers out there in the world and in our space specifically, but there's a lot of different niches and different things. But like, how did you made that transition from working, in the family business over to marketing? Like, what was that like? Did you get to go to school for it, or you just kind of dove right in, or how'd that work?
Yeah, well, I'm sure any of the marketing listening to this will laugh with me that they don't have classes on this. And if they did, by the time you graduate, you are outdated in the marketing practices, unfortunately. So really for us, a trial and tribulation was kind of what this, I mean, it's testing over and over again. And, luckily within a industry such as roofing, you don't have too many things you have to test like this, but it's still included in your industry. But that's kind of what we had to do to build ours off of, is what exactly do people want? You've mentioned previously in many podcast episodes, like your branding, your messaging, how you're trying to help that homeowner, what you're trying to stand for and what you're trying to do for them. Like, that was all the stuff we kind of had to go back to the drawing board for, because it had been me and my business partner for years doing this solo. We were helping any and every local business we could, and kind of realized that the people getting the biggest bang for their buck out of what we do, which is, making sure you just rank online. If someone's typing in roofer, like you just want to be there. Like that's what basically our services include with it, is the guys who needed to do this process over and over and over again, because you need to have a high level of lead generation to close. Those are always the guys we were helping the most. And when we looked and tracked back, when I say those guys, I mean my trades guys. What we did was we looked back, tracked everything, and just kind of saw that most of our clientele were people in the trades. They were having to talk to a lot of homeowners, get their foot in the door, and they were the ones that benefited the most from having that higher lead gen process with it. So that was kind of where we figured out, hey, there's a sweet spot for us. Like we can solely focus on helping guys get into homeowners' houses and provide the amazing service that they can do. Like really niche ourselves down to focus. How can we learn more for just these guys and gals, but mainly all my good trade boys? Like, what can I do to help them out the most? Like I grew up in this. What would my dad have wished we could have had if I knew what I knew now with it? So that's kind of where just over the years and before the pandemic, we kind of, so I do all of our sales and marketing for ourselves. We are still, you wear a multiple hat type of business. And so I do love it. I get to talk to anyone interested in why do they hate their website? Like I get to be that therapist and go over that with them, but I'm really able to better explain to them, like, here is how a homeowner searches. Here is their process. Like take yourself out of your business for a hot second and pretend you don't know to do all the amazing things that you know how to do in home improvement. Like you're someone who would pick up a hammer and make a hole and be like, oh shit, what now? Like you wouldn't understand how to patch it, drive, none of those things. How would a homeowner go through the process of figuring this out when they don't know anything? And so knowing that what our services do is help the person be there when that homeowner starts this thought process is really kind of where we found the benefit of how to help them out the most. Because what you specialize in, Randy, is once that lead is there and kind of all the other aspects of the business, how do we succeed? What do we need to do? And, that was something where we're never going to be able to get involved as we can with all of our clients to help them with that sales process. But I can find people and experts like yourself to help them who understand the industry 100% to help them create a better process with it. So when we looked at everything we did and where we could help them most, that's what helped us niche down at the end of the day, is knowing that these are the guys giving us the most feedback and telling us exactly what we're doing is accomplishing A, B, and C, and just be able to keep revving the engine, trying to go after what we're helping them the best with.
Absolutely. And I think there's a couple things that I noted there. One, if you're looking to work with a marketing company, it's important that you work with somebody that has a genuine care and interest in your business, your well-being, have some experience in it. That helps tremendously, but you don't want to just hire just a cookie cutter company that's just trying to just rinse and repeat and just get the job done, or just try to do just enough to make sure you keep paying the bill. Like someone that's vested and someone that truly cares about the success of your business and knows the industry is really important, because marketing is not just an easy button or a gun for hire. It's a partnership. And I think it's important that, that as we're looking for someone to work with, that we understand that. So, we're going to dive into, some good content. So I want to make sure our listeners get some good, valuable tips and tricks on how to kind of level up, or how maybe evaluate where they are currently. And, we teased the beginning of this thing on how to dominate your local market. And, in the home service space, I think the market has a huge is a huge piece of how you go to market with your digital strategy. I'm in a big market, Denver. There's probably 5,000 roofers that are all competing for that, those thousands of keywords and trying to get exposure and get noticed. But there's a lot of contractors that we work with, or that maybe listen to this, that are all over the country, that are in smaller markets. From what I understand, there's a different approach to each. Let's start in those smaller markets. How do I'm a contractor, I'm a mom and pop contractor. I'm trying to grow my business, and I may not have a ton of money to dump into a website. I just want to start that process of building out and getting more presence and niching myself within my market. Give me some tips and tricks on how to do that.
Yeah. And when I say as well, kind of going through this, is when we talk non-competition, is where you could have a stone's throw and you're not seeing your competition right at your doorstep, or there's only 3 in your entire area. So, that is very fun, kind of going after those smaller populations or less competition. And it's mainly because who doesn't want to dominate quickly?
Sure.
We are a goldfish type of society nowadays. So we do want to get to the end results as quick as possible. So it is very fun when I look at those. Anyone I talk to in smaller areas where there's not that much competition, but they're still not getting the leads, they're still not showing up. It really is kind of the basics. And when we look back at their marketing, we see we skip a lot of those things. We feel like we know we should, but really what I want to emphasize today is the importance and the priority of some of these elements. So let's kind of dive into them. So you mentioned first and foremost, like I need a website. And what I talk to people when they have a limited budget is you do not need bells and whistles. When a homeowner is looking for a roofing contractor, there's a few key elements they're looking for. When they're looking just at your website, they want any type of trust and authority that they can gather information wise from your website. So it is free 99 to get any of these logos and icons from who you're buying your products from on your website. So they can see you're buying from GAF, they're buying from Owens Corning, or you're producing and fabricating your own metal shingles. All of these little tidbits of information, just take your time to write down, but they're answering all of the FAQs and all of those crazy concerns homeowners might have. Because correct me if I'm wrong, Randy, but some people still think, and homeowner wise think, that there's a lot of fly by night companies, and especially in the roofing industry.
There are, and I think a lot, and I don't believe, maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't believe that people intentionally try to be a fly-by-nighter. I believe that people in general have a good idea. They want to do right by their customers. They want to do right by their employees. They want to do things right. They just don't know what they don't know. And they make decisions and they make moves that get themselves into situations where then they have to make new decisions. And sometimes those are bad decisions and ultimately can lead to a bad reputation, can lead to making mistakes, can lead to, and here's the reality of it is if you're a business owner and you get yourself in a pickle where it's like either me or him, guess what's going to happen? It's human nature. You're going to choose yourself. We're human beings. We're inherently selfish. We're inherently going to do whatever we have to do to protect ourselves and protect our families first at the expense of others.
Yes.
And it happens and it compounds and then all of a sudden it blows up and now our whole industry has a bad reputation.
Exactly.
So I say that because I believe in people. I really do. And maybe to a fault, but like your roofers out there, like I believe in you. And that's why I do what I do. That's why we coach. That's why we have this show, is to help educate those, because I believe that nobody starts a roofing company wanting to be in and out, wanting to be fly by night, wanting to rip people off, wanting to shut their doors in 2 years or 1 year or whatever. I mean, the statistics show that, I think it's like 80% of companies fail within the first 2 years. And so much of it is we just don't know what we don't know. So that being said, there's a lot of companies that kind of come and go every year.
Yes.
Companies that get started, companies that fail, companies that move, companies that relocate. And if you're going to be a company that wants to be in especially if you're local, you're from there, you want to be able to not be kind of beaten out by these companies that bring in like an army of people and try to knock every door in town and then leave. You have to focus on the off season in building your brand and building your reputation and building that, and understand that you're playing the long game.
Absolutely.
And this is what we're talking. Digital marketing is playing the long game.
Yes. And that's kind of where, just to make sure everyone knows, I don't think that every roofer is a fly by night. I just say that some
100%.
owners do. Just like, unfortunately, in my industry, SEO is so intangible that we have such a bad reputation for what we do, because you always can't physically see the work we're doing. You're just waiting to see results versus I can see a shingle. I can either see it on the floor or on my roof, and you can easily kind of see and grasp those things with it. But because we have that history, because the roofing industry, unfortunately, is sometimes seen as that, that's why that website, as I said, it does not have to have all the bells and whistles, but the information you provide on that is helping you take yourself out of that box of a homeowner saying, well, we just had a hailstorm, so I'm sure everybody running ads right now is just trying to take my money. Like, how do I know who's good, who's not going to screw me over, who will help me with the insurance claim? All those little things and elements kind of go together with it. So that's kind of where, yes, and this will go when we talk about big area versus small areas. As you mentioned, Randy, your brand and your reputation, those are things that need to be showcased. And your website's the just first starting point that I've mentioned, but that is your online 24-hour sales person. Randy, you might sleep 1 hour of the day and be awake for 23, but guess what? Mr. Website has you that 1 hour you need to take a nap to catch up with the business. It is supposed to be the thing that can capture that information. And when you wake up from your nap, say, oh crap, I need to call Mr. and Mrs. Smith back because they just submitted something to us.
Absolutely.
So So outside of that, I mean, really, when I talk about marketing basics, when we look at a Google search engine results page, we can see ads at the top. They can either be Google ads or Google guaranteed. Below that, we'll see the map section, usually at least 3 businesses, maybe an ad is in there as well. The rest of the results below that are what we call the organic results. So Google is ranking those websites based on relevancy, trust, and quite a few other factors with it. What I like to focus on with small businesses is the number one thing you can fix and focus on is right on top of where you live and where this office is located. So well, now it's called Google Business Profile. Of course, they got to change the name on us every 5 years. So I sound awful. This is the 3rd name I've given it, at least in the last 5 years. So within that, I mean, it's all the things we've already talked about when you mentioned branding. Like, are we getting reviews? Do we have all the information there? Are we answering their questions? Like, what are we showcasing about us that's going to say, hey, we're here and we're serious about what we do. We stand behind our service and our products, and we're going to deliver the best results to you at possible means that we can. We're not perfect, but we're going to strive to do the best we can with this. Like, those basic things really do start within just your locality of where you are. And proximity is the number one ranking factor that maybe is something we should dive into as far as we just talk local domination.
Yeah, great place to start. And let's back up a little bit. There's probably someone out here listening or maybe listening to this that's trying to make a decision on, where do I put my business? Maybe they're trying to transition. Maybe they started working in their house, or they're working and they're trying to get a new business going or a new market going. And I think, something you would want to maybe to reverse, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe if I reverse engineer this a little bit, think about, hey, where I put my physical location is going to contribute to where I can maybe generate some low hanging fruit as far as online presence and some leads that way. So if I put my location far away from residential homes, hey, that might not be the best idea. Or if I put my location right in a house, that might not be the best idea either, because I know there's some Google, analytics and Google stuff that, the algorithms and stuff that kind of can figure that out now. So you want to pick a location that's going to be conducive to where your ideal working area is. And I think that's also a good thing. Correct me if I'm wrong here too, but I think it's also a good thing to search out and make sure you're not, putting your business like right next door to another roofer. So you're not instantly competing with somebody that might have a little bit of a better presence.
Yeah. So you're hitting the nail right on the head, Randy. What we're seeing right now, when it talks just about the Google Maps listing, and the reason I focus on that when I talk about local domination is because minimum at least 60% of your phone calls and leads will most likely come from ranking in that map pack. So being one of those top 3 businesses that are showing up in the maps, and remember that map, it just lists your name, address, phone number, reviews, and it will show a little icon A, B, or C where your pinpoint is on the maps. So what we're seeing with those listings is about a 15-mile proximity from where your business address is might be the max you're ever going to get, unless you're in one of these very rural areas where, again, there is going to be at least 20 miles till the next roofer might be hitting you. Then you could spread out for that, and you could be in that next city potentially. But yes, we need to make sure that if we're going to think long-term and strategically about our business, how do we want to market and dominate in this? Where are we at right now? And where do we want to go in the future? It's going to be to make sure that we get some type of office business address in the area in which we want to be doing business in. So if you have a downtown office, but all of the residential neighborhoods are 30 minutes away, then the thing I would be telling you is you can keep your downtown office. I'm not saying you need to leave it, destroy it, but you should very seriously consider getting an office address in that neighborhood that is the entire encompassing population of the city. Because when they're home on the weekend and a storm happens and they see a little bit of a leak, they're going to be searching from their home addresses, and those IP addresses that Google can see is nowhere near your proximity. So everyone else that is located near them will show up easily. So proximity is that number one ranking factor. So if you have a choice in this at all, think strategically about how you want to do. Then that's kind of where I talk to all my contractors is when we're looking at taking over that next city, we need to 120% think about where the heck are you going to put that office listing, because that's going to play a huge factor in who is going to find you very quickly versus the long-term frame of how that's kind of going to hold up. And there's been so many more stipulations about it. I'm sure you're probably more aware of this, Randy, but I mean, like, just for any of the listeners who don't know this, if you're looking, okay, I want to get some more locations up to kind of help dominate the maps and knock some people out. this is still a long-term strategy. Just having that listing will not rank you overnight. With that is there's no PO boxes. You can't use the USPS store. We can't use co-working spaces anymore, Regis offices, any of those things where multiple people are staying within them. Google has 100% cracked down. And unfortunately, they're even getting harder on home offices, which you would think after 2020, wouldn't they kind of give us like a little bit of a leeway? Like, hey, we probably took the business in house, and we're trying to do that with it. So the thing as well to think about, and what we're seeing with our clients, is if you're listed as a service area business, which means you are hiding your address on Google, that there's actually a less chance you're going to rank as well as if you were willing to show the address, because Google again is trying to crack down on people potentially trying to get office listings and asking all their friends and family to use their home address to have, ABC roofing in every 5-mile proximity, around Denver. That's what they're trying to stop with this, but you can still use the idea behind this strategically for your business. So I do have a lot of guys that, even though they're in one city, they do have at least 2 listings, because the city is large enough to adequately have those 2 listings separate on the city, not overlap. That's a huge thing as well, to make sure we're not overlapping any of these service areas. And that way Google can see where your business is willing to go to. For some reason, that's proximity is still the number one factor. So the joke I make about it, is if you're in Vegas and you go to jail, you're going to need to contact an attorney. Do you want the closest attorney to you at that time in jail, or the best attorney that is listed on there? So, unfortunately that's how it works, but you can still use that to your benefit.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask, because, I think, many of us entrepreneurs, we like to hack the system. We want the easy button, and like instantly in a creative mind's head, they're like, whoa, why can't I just maybe I can have a listing at my mom's house, at my grandma's house, at my sister. Now I can have all these listings all over the place, and that doesn't work anymore. Google has cracked down on that. So don't get cute.
No, you definitely
do
can't
it the right way.
Yes. And if you think about it, is even if you wanted to do that, if that was still available to do it, you just got to remember, reviews are another high ranking factor for your Google business listing. So you are now, if you went from 1 listing to 5, you are now having to spread your reviews across 5 different Google business listings to try to get those to have a high enough number behind it. Because again, all these things do interplay. So even if I found the roofer that is closest to me and they pop up number 1, if there are 0 reviews, or really what the number they tell us when we see online is under 25, is kind of like a trust factor. The minute we can get over 25 reviews, we're starting to hit just a different psychological tick within everyone's brains. That's just kind of a sweet spot number. So if you had 5 locations, up on top of the one you previously had, that's 4 new, that's 100 reviews you would need to get ASAP to spread equally over all these bad boys to show yourself as an authority within it. So yes, people have tried it, then they're trying to fake the reviews with it. So we know we want to be good business people, and that's not what we want to start our foundation off with. So even 100%. If you're small and you don't have the budget, don't use those scammy tactics, because they will bite you in the ass. And there's nothing that any of us can do for you at that point, because Google is God. They can strike down.
Google will get you. And on the review front, a lot of people try to hack that system too. You kind of touched on it a little bit. I think there is something to be said about a genuine, maybe character type of review. But if you do that too much, what's going to happen?
Just buying more fake reviews. Is that what you're asking?
Well, yeah, obviously you don't buy fake reviews, but I think a lot of companies just get started and they may not have the history yet. So they tap into their friends, their family to try to get some more character type reviews. Yes. Now, is Google is that okay, or to what extent? And I like that you mentioned this, because I think it's a good takeaway for the listeners here is 25. That's the magic number. If you're just getting going in a location, do whatever you can to get 25 reviews, and then work your way up from there.
Yeah. So my 2 cents on this, and hopefully Google's not going to read the transcript, because they'll find me and also probably cancel me for saying this. But what I tell all my guys when I talk to them, and especially for starting a new business listing or a brand new business, regardless, is everybody has done it. Everybody has reached out to friends and family. So this is nothing new. And this is technically, in my opinion, nothing scammy or spammy, because they're buying not the business, they're buying you. And especially if they were a new owner, your branding, your reputation is what they are purchasing. That hope and trust that you're a good enough person, just like you and I believe, like everybody has that goodness to them. They're going off of that to make that decision. So I have even done this with my business. I have done it where I have asked people who have not purchased from me, but have spent maybe an hour or at least two in different strategy session meetings where I have been brainstorming and creating strategies for them. At the end of it, if they say, I could have never afford you, but I would love to do anything to repay you back, I say the best way you could repay me is to let others know what I am like to experience and the things I will do to try to help anybody out that is even not going to buy from us. So
Yeah.
yes, friends and family, I mean, those character reviews, the thing you just need to be careful about is they don't have to say, I've never bought from you. Like there's none of those guidelines in there right now, unless one of your competition is going to try to manually submit you for review on all these different reviews on there to try to get them taken off. Most likely not going to happen. People don't have that type of time to look in with it. But what you would need to do is you need to make sure you do this as by the Google guidelines as possible. So therefore your efforts in getting those reviews don't get taken away. And so there's two components, slow and steady. And that's all it is with these reviews. You know, when you have them, that's all you need to continue doing with them. But if you're working with under that 25 number and that, you know, I do have 25 friends I could easily ask to do this, then you are going to pick 5 out and ask 5 a week. I mean, this is going to be over a month process and you're going to follow up with the ones later, but you just don't want to get all those 25 up hot and heavy, because that's when Google knows, what the hell are you thinking you can get away with, my man? Like this does not seem legitimate. And also it doesn't look, and that's kind of where I think, to your point, Randy, that's when it does look a little bit illegitimate, because if you slowly got these reviews in of people, it would seem like, okay, like this is somewhat you maybe doing business with them, because when what someone writes in a review, they're not always going to know they didn't work for you. As I mentioned, I ask anyone if they do ask how they could pay me without physically sending me money, I ask just 2 minutes of your time. Like that would be the best way to kind of pay me. And even those reviews in there, people will say, I had an amazing strategy session with Brittany. She helped me cover A through Z with my business. Someone just reads enough to say, okay, they care. And that's what those reviews are trying to do as well. And that's why that 25 number is so important, because we need to see you've cared at least that many times about someone else for us to kind of give you that verification with it. And bad reviews are not completely bad, but we don't love them. But that is kind of part of the nature, and how you handle those dignifies who you are and builds that character or reputation online just as quickly.
I love it. And I think, something to be said too on the lines of, getting reviews from people who might not have bought from you. One of the things that kind of dawned on me even this year, and we implemented as a strategy, a lot of us think like we got to wait till the end of our project or the end of our dealing with the customer to ask for that review. You can ask. And here's the thing too, those reviews are also keywords. Those are also things that Google's picking up on, right? So what we've been trying to do, I'm giving my getting all the secret sauce out, but whatever, here it is. This is what we do here. We're open book. We share. We
are givers.
Help people grow. So for those of you who don't subscribe, sorry for you. But here you are. You're listening. You're getting the secret sauce. So we've been working on getting reviews and having the homeowner intentionally put the word in roof inspection in it and hail damage and those sort of things, because and now we can get a review based on the inspection process. They may not have even purchased a roof from us. But if we can get a homeowner to give us a review based on their experience with our inspection process, with our inspector, with our project manager, and mention them as well, awesome, because it differentiates. It's not like, hey, they did a roof, they did a good job, got the roof done, and I paid them. Cool, check. It's their inspection process. They showed up on time. They did a good job. I did not have any hail damage. Great. Put that as a review. You want to have a homeowner, really trust you, have them read a review from a client who you did a thorough hail damage inspection for, and you didn't try to sell them a roof. Talk about a powerful review. There's your hack. There's your tip of the the inside scoop from me.
Yes. And to add on to that, if you ever feel uncomfortable asking a client for something of that nature, the way I phrase it is, could you just briefly say what we did for you? And then how we did doing those services for you. So I'm using your cheat, which is I'm able to, when they say what service we did, that is the SEO. They are putting those keywords in the review for you, and they're saying how you did it after that. So yes, if they're saying on time, on budget, all these things do feed into it. And that's kind of where, Google always wants to be the biggest and best. Every search engine, every social media platform, all these guys, they want to make money, but they want to be big and powerful with this. And so Google has tried as much as it could and can, it's still going to try, to be as if it could have been like Facebook, where people post on, like it never picked up the way for that. But what has picked up is that they are looking at that engagement. So that's why I say, even if you're in business, that slow and steady is very important with this and going through this process, because Google is seeing this engagement is happening at a consistent basis. So you are a legitimate operating business consistently year round. All of those things even feed into it as well, which may seem small at the time, but that's kind of where we say this is a long-term strategy. You putting all of these processes into place and mastering them continually is kind of what builds upon when we're just talking about marketing in the digital world as well, let alone just your business and how to run it effectively.
I love it, man. Look, we've covered a lot of really cool tips and tricks, I think, especially for, maybe somebody who's getting started and just kind of getting their business going. What's another layer here? We got the Google, the local service ads, or actually, was it like Google My Business Now or whatever, the Google Business Partner, whatever they change it to?
Yes.
They keep changing what it is. So make sure you're registered locally and go through the proper protocols for that. Make sure you're getting reviews. Make sure you pick a great location for your operating business. And those are all foundational things that's going to help set you up for a great, great runway on building your great online presence. I think another thing you mentioned either is we don't have to have a ginormous website. A really good landing page, well built, that's built within the parameters of what Google's looking for and search engine optimization. And I think that's another great way to get started as well. And you don't have to break the bank there. You mentioned that earlier?
Absolutely correct. Yes, because basically the second step, other than your local presence and what Google ranks you on after proximity, is actually what content is on your website and how relevant your website is to the search terms people are typing in. So as we said, yes, you don't need an expensive website. You need a website that answers the questions people are asking so Google can see you are trying to be that resource. And the more that you are giving and giving and giving, Google is going to give back to you in that time frame as well. So it's kind of where, yes, like when I talk to all my guys and they're just like, I don't know what to add to my website. Like, I know you say SEO and SEO's content and words on the page, but what the heck do I put? Roofer 20,000 times over my website, roofing inspection another 2,000 times. No, it goes back to the basics. When you are answering the phone, when someone calls you, what are all the questions they are asking you over and over and every time they call? These are the things they've most likely already looked up, but you either didn't answer it well, or if you did, they're just wanting a little bit more elaboration and also to make sure it's consistent. But again, when I talk about a website, and it does not have to be an expensive, crazy ordeal, because it's just your 24-hour salesperson that just has the knowledge from your head written down into a text form or even video form. If you like to be on camera like Randy and I, you can have those answers there. And again, what you're doing throughout that process is they're getting to know you and what you do and how you do it. And that's the biggest fear for most homeowners is, what is the buying process? What does this look like? And, as much as they joke that millennials can't get a home nowadays, there are going to be younger and first-time homeowners that just don't know a damn thing about how to take care of their home or what to look for. And guess what? Everybody born after 1990 was born out of the womb with a cell phone in their hand. So we are the quickest at being able to look up any of these answers and get information from it. So especially even in that small town, if they can Google that question, find your answer on it, read your answer, and like what you have to say, oh my God, look, they're probably going to call you. You're the guy in town and you have some trust factors. They can see that you have good reviews. You're a 4-point something at the bare minimum. All of those things kind of help go through it. But that's what it really comes down to. When I talk about search engine optimization, content, the physical text on your website is one part of it. Link building is another huge aspect of it. And that's all the stuff off of your website. And at the end of the day, I say this is easy. It does take time. This is something obviously we've perfected over the last decade since we have been in business, but it is all those basics that come down to it. We have to wash and repeat over and over again. And when I say it's the overarching theme is just to answer the questions and provide that resource. And that's what builds that connection and that relevance within Google to rank you in the first place.
Yeah, I love it. So much awesome content. And this is a subject that we can go down so many different rabbit holes and
put people to sleep.
For the sake of time. I mean, and you mentioned it earlier, guilty as charged. I went to school for business with an emphasis in marketing. Like the moment I graduated, everything changed. I learned it was like,
yes,
it just collects dust behind me. My degree does, but it was a great experience. So And you've listened to the show, so now's my time to put you on the spot. So
Great.
traditional fashion, for someone, we've really kind of targeted to, a contractor that's really trying to build up in a local market, maybe a smaller market, as that's kind of been the theme of today. What would be your biggest piece of advice to a new entrepreneur or somebody that's really trying to, take that next step in life and grow the level of success?
Well, you mentioned in a previous podcast with Jim, roofing marketers,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned EOS. You all kind of talked about it a little bit. And really, not that every entrepreneur might know what EOS is, and you don't have to potentially, but one of the biggest aspects of it is really knowing like who you are and who is working around you, who the heck they are. What did they bring to the table?
Mm.
And I think that's one of the biggest pieces of advices that made our company so successful is my business partner is the exact opposite of who I am. And
Mhm.
us being exact opposites, we're able to build different sides of the business in its succinctity and just the best of both worlds. He is a processor. I'm unfortunately not. I'm a loud brainstorming, cussing, talking salesperson. I love to think out loud. I love to see kind of the big picture of things. He is the perfect person who, when we first started the business, I mean, he was doing all the SEO work.
Mhm.
He was building the websites. He was doing every little thing behind the scenes by himself, but he had the personality and the capability and the expertise and the skill to be able to sit down and put those things together. So therefore I could sell, we could scale because we had an amazing process together with it. So, I mean, the Jim Collins quote, have the right people on the bus, kick the wrong people off, and put the right people in the right seats, is one of the biggest things I would say growing as an entrepreneur, because it can't be you forever. You do
Yeah.
not have the time to be wearing every single hat. So you are going to grow your team, and who you first bring onto your team is going to make the biggest impact for it. I mean, we're growing right now, and we're actually using Culture Index as a personality survey service. It's 91% accurate. And we have even been able to make changes within our current team that's been night and day. I mean,
Yeah, I love it.
just the openness and transparency of, hey, I'm never going to be as detailed as you need me to be. Who can take this for me and run with this? And you have someone going, I would love to take that. And perfect. What can I take off your plate? They're like, please stop me from doing any of the videos. All right. I'll be the person that just talks and goes over those things.
Yeah.
How you grow and who you chose to grow with is going to really impact how quickly you're going to grow and the success of that, I think.
I love that. At the end of the day, we're all in the same business, and that's the people business.
Absolutely.
So make your team isn't vitally important. I love all that, because they'll do all the things that we really, really press in on when we work with clients. So for those of you listening to the show, thank you, Brittany Murphy with OneThing Marketing, hanging out with me, sharing some awesome insight. If you like the show, if you're new to the show, hey, give us a like, give us a subscribe, share this with your friends, tag somebody, tag me, and make sure to subscribe and comment. We appreciate that. How do we get a hold of you if we want to kind of carry the conversation on, Brittany?
Yeah. So if you would love to talk to me, I go to onethingmarketing.net. There is a strategy session button that will put you right on my calendar. If you like what I have to say, but you want to think on it, we actually have an ebook for people in the roofing industry, all the marketing digital things you need to focus on. So the top 9 tips. So I'll give that link to you, Randy, if you'd like to put that in the show notes, but that is also just on our homepage as well to kind of go over and see what you should be focusing on if you're going to do this yourself, or if you already have a marketing company, just check over these 9 things and see where they are on it and what you need to focus more on to get more leads for your business and help family businesses stay alive as long as possible.
I love it. Keep the small business, family business alive. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everybody. Again, this show would not be possible if it weren't for our amazing sponsors and our amazing listeners. It's because of you why we do this and why we've been able to do it for so long. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Have a wonderful day. God bless.